Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of GeekVerse Podcast. I am your host, Taylor, and today we're continuing along our spoilers review of Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 3. Now, just so you are aware, I've been doing this in bulk reviews, so basically covering 4 episodes at a time, where we've done episodes 1 to 3, and now I just was not expecting episode 6 and 7 to be back to back, so here we are, dropping this early. Uh, Before we get into our spoiler thoughts, you can find us with your internet connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast is our Twitter. GeekVerse is our Facebook. You can also find us on Patreon. We get ad-free, early, exclusive episodes. You can support us on there. Tons of great stuff. Lots of retrospectives on there right now. I also want to shout out Patreon producers Aaron Braden, April of Darkness, Jack Grant, Muds, Sam, and T fucking Money. You guys are the bee's knees. We love you all. In addition to all that, on our Patreon, dropping very, very soon, this Friday at midnight, I believe is the release date, there's going to be a brief rental period for our first GeekVerse Studios produced film called Adrenochrome. The trailers are all on our social media. Go check them out. And if you are on our Patreon, you'll have the opportunity to rent it. In addition, you'll also be able to get a sneak peek little look-see if you're on our Patreon at the teaser trailer, mind you, of our second film coming out 2025. So be sure to keep your eyes peeled for that. Other than that, I think that's everything. So we can get into this now. Briefly non spoilers first here. These episodes were absolutely wonderful. The quality of this show is beyond anything I've been anticipating and expecting. When you get to that season 1 of the Bad Batch, it follows up after the Clone Wars, and while some of the Clone Wars stuff is very serious and very much engaging and adult oriented, a lot of the stuff that they do throw in those shows is just over the top, kid crazy frenzy and whatnot. But I appreciate how a kid can still, I mean, maybe I'm not a kid, so I can't speak for kids, but I would like to think and appreciate that maybe a kid can watch this and still get enjoyment out of this show. But as an adult, wow, give me this in live action. I really, really want this in live action. But that being said, these 4 episodes were really something great. I had a good time getting to see a little bit more of Crosshair and Omega, their story and their connection developing between the two, getting to see more of Hunter and Wrecker and seeing them kind of connect as characters and just see more familiar faces that sprouted out in these episodes. It was really, really wonderful. And we got a little bit more insight to a degree of just what's going on and the overarching narrative. And now the hunt is really, really on to try and complete this mission objective that our one character is trying to achieve. I'm trying not to be super spoily here, but there's something building up here, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. But I'm also really scared because I feel like none of these characters are safe, and that's what really, really concerns me. I love these characters. I love the abundance of clones that we're getting to see in this series, and so as a clone guy, it hurts whenever I see some of them die. But overall, I think that each episode here does a great job and does not really, it doesn't live up to the title of being a filler episode, which we've labeled things in the past, whereas a filler episode just serves as what it is. It's filling the episode in between the main story plots of a season. And I feel like for the most part, for these episodes, while they are acting as that filler, they do a wonderful job at continuing that main storyline and continuing in being detrimental to our characters' development and their progression in this narrative. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. So I think that this show just it does so much justice. Really, really love it. So without further ado, let's get into some spoilers here. The episode 4, A Different Approach. Now we see following, spoilers, I guess I should say. Following the escape of Tantus Base, Omega and Crosshair flee on their stolen transport shuttle, and they've gotten through hyperspace. They did get damaged, and they tried to reach the Bad Batch, but they were not able to. So while they're trying to fix the ship, they decide, okay, we got to crash land, and this just felt like a real nice laid back kind of episode with them just trying to make their way off planet. And I mean, they managed to, but this reminded me of things with like Solo a little bit and a little bit of Andor, because you get to see this really confident side of Omega that I really appreciate when she just starts gambling, and you get to see her take on this local governor, which was, I love the character. This is just, it felt immersive. It felt like it was well well sauced inside the Star Wars universe. It didn't feel like it was just main characters and the main story, anything like that. Again, this is a perfect example for me where it didn't feel like a filler, even though this was basically just a filler episode. They didn't have to land here. They didn't have to go on this brief adventure. They could have just crash landed or escaped or gotten to their base, whatever. But I appreciate the quality of world building that this episode did. And I also appreciate that this game that they created in the Bad Batch here, I read that it is apparently a game that the animators they tested, they actually created this game. It's not Sabak, but it's an actual game that they were able to play, and they implemented that into the show. So I think that's a really cool concept that they were able to pull off. Now, obviously, Hemlock is just salivating. He needs to find out where Omega is because Omega has got that M count. Oh, Dilmas in the chat. This is a solo review. Bad Batch. Um, so I think Hemlock has just proven to be still a very mysterious character. We know that he has some very powerful motivations. He wants to move up in his position. He wants to get in more favor with the Emperor. So you got that going on for him. But he's still got Nalase imprisoned and is still trying to keep her around for some benefit, which we're not really sure yet. But we know that the M count is what he's juicing for. It's what he's going for. And Omega's got it. Now, we see our characters get through this whole ordeal of dealing with this governor, and what wasn't supposed to turn into a fight turns into a fight. And I feel like you really get to see this different side of Crosshair here as he's understanding and becoming a little bit more closer with Omega, and I like seeing their relationship full because before, while all the characters of the Bad Batch have had that unique personal relationship with her, we never got to see Crosshair have this, and so now we're finally getting that, and it's only expanding as each episode progresses, and I'm really thankful for that because 2 seasons without Crosshair and Omega having a real strong connection it's nice to see it finally unfold here. So we eventually, at the end of all this, we get to see Omega put out a signal. They get on the ship, they leave with Crosshair, and they have Batcher still with them. So they manage to put out a signal. They figure out where the Hunter Wrecker are, and they land there, and you just get this super tense moment because why would they trust Crosshair? I don't doubt it whatsoever. Their apprehensive tension, hesitation to trust such a character, and I'm excited to see how this kind of rebuilds and their friendship maybe rekindles. But between them, just the end scene there of just being the standoff, I really appreciated and liked it. So I think it was a great episode. Really, really do. Moving on from that, we get episode 5, and this one is called The Return. So after Omega wakes up, she enters this common area where she's greeted by Hunter and Wrecker gives her fruit sent by Shep and Liana. Basically, we're back on Paradise. This is our familiar location we've seen in season 2, and we just kind of see things progressing with Crosshair here that we understand now. Okay, he's definitely not the same trooper he used to be. He's definitely going through some things, and I'm not just talking mentally, although maybe it is mental that's affecting his skills, but I'm meaning mostly the physical sense where he's lost his shot, you could say, and it could very well stem from some mental perspective or causality, but it remains to be seen. We've yet to really figure that out. They do expand on that a little bit more in the next episode, but for now, we'll keep checking on. So the apprehensive perspective and stance that Hunter has with Crosshair is expedited a lot more in this episode, exponentially greater. Wrecker, you don't really detect that from him, and not because Wrecker's they're just playing this all bra no brain character. He's absolutely grown and developed into a really, really a passionate character. I would dare say now, not at all like the blah blah kind of person that he maybe was trying to be portrayed as in that first season, or at least the last season of the Clone Wars. He's changed. He's really changed, and I'm really, really thankful for that as a character and how he's grown. So our characters here basically want to dive into Nalase's data pad that Omega swiped, and this is something Nalase gave Omega when she was trying to escape from Tantus. So they have the data pad, and they're thinking, okay, we're gonna go to a base here, abandoned one, and see what we can see. And this is interesting because, of course, we get Echo coming back to join the fight, which is great. But the planet that we're going back to is where is it? Snowy Planet Barton 4. And if you are familiar with this planet, this is where certain things were stored for the Empire back in the previous season, and we see Crosshair having been stationed here for a brief bit, dealing with some rebel activity going on, some pirates. But there was, and people are gonna kill me. But there was clone troopers that were stationed here, and one of the clone commanders was basically here for a long, long time. And I was reading some articles about how it's interesting that they probably were here and didn't even have, or like they weren't aware of Order 66. This thing would have just happened, but they were stationed out here. There are no Jedi around. They were just kind of left to their own devices. So this is a very, very deep and powerful callback for Crosshair as a character. And I love that episode in season 2. It is so emotionally heavy because of the things that Crosshair goes through to save this clone, and it just ends in literally him dying at the very, very end, and it was all for nothing. And just to see the loyalties and how this thing goes, and that was a turning point for Crosshair. That's where he fired upon his superiors and basically said, you know what, screw it, I'm done. This is not who I want to be and not who I want to serve. So this is definitely a very interesting place to visit. You see it still reflected how Hunter does not trust Crosshair, because Crosshair is like, I'm going to go survey the area, this and that. But they get a. This episode is actually timed well because Dune 2 dropped. And so you get like snow worms that are very much like Dune style, and they're kind of going through the snow and everything like that. So this is very fitting to have some more Dune centric stuff, even though it's a different landscape or terrain. But yeah, overall, I think it was great. Again, this was to act as another filler, but it didn't serve as a filler to me at all. It just served as another key character device episode that was really focused on exploring more of this relationship between this character coming back into our friends' lives. So you see a lot of the protectiveness too emanating from Crosshair with Omega as well. But overall, it was just a really, really good episode. I'm really, really happy with it, and it sets up kind of getting into our next episode, where let's see here. I'm gonna dive into it after this ad break, and we're back. So the next episode here is getting into familiar territory where you're seeing some of these like assassination clones, these guys that are basically trained and to do really, really crazy things, and they don't seem to have any recollection of their brothers, their clone brothers. They're clone troopers based off Django's DNA, but they are wholeheartedly, they're evil and mission oriented, objected, and they are not stopping for anything else. And if you catch one, well, they'll bite into their teeth and they'll kill themselves. Very, very crazy. And I mean, they haven't confirmed it, but I'm pretty sure that these are clones that are affiliated or stemming from what's going on the experiments on Tantus to a slight degree. It's hard to say, but uh, it was nice to see that we get a whole list of recognizable clone troopers here, whether it being Rex, again, Echo's coming back, Hauser from earlier on in the Bad Batch series. So it was good to see him pop in. I was nervous because that episode 2 is one of my favorites, when his squad kind of divides up and some of the clones don't want to turn and some of the clones do want to stick to the Empire. And it was just a really, really good little arc. Anyways, so this episode, Infiltration, it's episode 6, and it starts off with an assassination attempt, and we see some familiar faces here, like Senator Chuchi, and then we see another one, separatist, a former separatist senator actually, called Singh, and we've seen him from the Clone Wars, and so just to see again the dynamic between a clone, sorry, not clone, old Republic senator and a separatist senator kind of teaming up is very interesting. And I think this was just to serve as the baseline. They made it seem like it was a much more grandiose thing, even though it is, but it was not the foundation for this episode. It was just, okay, this evil clone was here to assassinate one of them and break up this meeting. And we have Rex just doing his stuff. His clones are all here, and it was really cool to see that he has like a whole platoon of clone troopers working with him. They all got different colored armor and whatnot. It was just really, really awesome. I was really driving with it, and I would easily take a live action show of just clone troopers doing their own MO stuff like this. It's totally awesome. Granted, that's what the Bad Batch is, but I mean live action. Give me the live action. Put in a bunch of clone troopers, post Order 66. I really want to see it. Tamura Morrison, just dozens of him everywhere. I digress though. So after this meeting obviously doesn't go their way, but we know that they were talking about creating a rebellion, so to speak, to oppose Emperor Palpatine. There is a little bit of dialogue that I really wanted to latch onto here and highlight, and it's the fact that they talk about how they are leaderless, but even if Emperor Palpatine was to do something and do something drastic here, he would not be able to sway public support. And I find that very powerful because at this time, we know that he's emperor and he can do what he wants for the most part, but it doesn't mean that there's freedom free of or actions free of consequence, and he's still subject to that consequence. And it calls back to season 2 when he's trying to get the clone troopers dismissed and the stormtroopers brought in, and Admiral Rampart is dealt with, and he comes into the assembly and talks to the Senate, and you can see how he's trying to appeal to the like a public opinion. And it's just one of those things that I really like, and I love seeing one of those sides of Palpatine. And so the fact that he's still subject to that is interesting. And we know too in A New Hope that those remnants that he was still subject to of that public opinion was swept away. It didn't matter anymore, and he could basically do whatever he wanted because he had enough power and enough supremacy. So this is just a nice little touching point on continuing that story for Palpatine's character and that universe building. However, so continuing on from that, we see that the clone trooper that they kidnapped, the assassin one, Rex Hauser and Nemec, I believe his name was, bring him back to their base, and they check out one of the puck targets, and it looks like Omega's on there. So they decide to call the Bad Batch, Hunter, Crosshair, Wrecker, and Omega come drop by, and they basically tell him, hey, Omega's being hunted. You need to be careful. And we get a little bit of inquiry here because they talk about how like why are they looking for you, Omega? Omega's like something about an M count, and Rex is like, okay, well, you know what? I've heard that before, but I'm not really sure what it means, which is a shame because I feel like he would know. But M count is based off midichlorians, and midichlorians, I mean, the only time they talk about midichlorians, I'm pretty sure, was the Phantom Menace. I don't think they touched upon that in episode 2, and definitely not episode 3, and certainly not the sequel trilogy. So I think I like the idea of M count. I think it's a fun touchpad thing. I can't even remember if they talk about it in the Mandalorian with Grogu, but that's for another deep dive another day. So they get the puck. They know that Omega is being targeted, and because they've captured this one rogue clone or assassin clone, another one has basically been activated, and this one feels like, we know that they're clones, but this one feels different. We never saw the helmet come off, but man, they really wanted you to feel a connection to this one. Like he wasn't just some other assassin clone. The whole time throughout the episode, we're really focused and engaged with him and what he was doing. And even in the end of this episode, when they made it seem like he died and he didn't, they were again focused on the fact, like, okay, he's probably going to come back, and he, like, are we supposed to recognize him? People are saying maybe it's Tech, which I hope not. Please don't be Tech. Tech is gone. Tech died, the hero. Don't let him become a villain. So I'm very interested to see who, and if this is just indeed another clone and whatnot, and this kind of vendetta he's going to have. But he basically causes all this shit. The base is basically taken down, and lo and behold, we get Commander Wolf, who is swooping in here with his clone troopers, and I'm happy to see more clone troopers still in service of the Empire. And I say that because I don't like seeing the clones work for the Empire, but I'm happy to see that the transition hasn't fully taken place. Between stormtroopers taking over. We've just seen a heavy stormtrooper presence on Mount Tantus, which is fine, but it's funny to still see a lot of clone troopers still in the enlisting with the Empire, but still questioning some of the Empire's motives and orders. And so when you have this assassin clone trying to do his thing, Commander Wolf is like, "Oh, what are you doing? Like, you gotta be kidding." I'm paraphrasing, but you can't be doing that. Come on, no. And he's applying logic and reason to all this, and so he's got his clones with him as well. He's got a Republic Commando, a clone commando with him too. But so basically, he starts the pursuit because he's like, "Why are there clones here? This is super weird. Like, they're targets? They're rebels? No, they're clones." And so that kind of continues on, and we see more of a dilemma between Crosshair trying to get his shot back, but he's super protective of Omega in this episode, and I really really like it. And yeah, it just felt like it got claustrophobic really really quick because the Empire just popped in here. And this kind of is what surprises me because this then transitions into the next episode where it's called Extraction. And this episode, I was really pleasantly surprised with. I thought it was fantastic getting to see Gregor in here and getting to see the face to face that confrontation between Rex and Wolf. I appreciated that Wolf understood the situation and understood that if this was anyone else, another clone trooper, he probably wouldn't have batted an eye and would have followed orders. But set the guns to stun, and let's be done with this. Even though the fallen clone troopers or insurrectionists, rebels, whatever you want to call them, they're still their brothers, and so they were going to bury them properly, collect the bodies and whatnot. And I can really appreciate that. And this sets the foundation too, because we know that Wolf ends up in Star Wars Rebels. He's up there with Rex and Gregor, so we know at some point something's going to happen here, and he's going to make the jump too. But I think that this episode again, it's very much it's a continuation from the previous one, of course, and we just have the team trying to escape, and we got this bloody evil clone who's just going to town, going crazy, like the bee's knees on our squad here. And you get to see Crosshair adapt, make some alterations because he's not super, super accurate anymore. So what does he do? He throws a bomb and then shoots the bomb, knowing the bomb will have an area of effect instead of just a direct shot. So he's pulling out some strings, which I can appreciate. But overall, I think this episode was great. It was visually appealing because when the ships are landing, the animators did such a good job. You're seeing like the smoke and wisps all throughout the ships and stuff like that. It's absolutely awesome. I love it. And yeah, sadly, Nemec doesn't make it, but Hauser gets out here, which is great. Yeah, the clone base is pretty much gone and totaled, but the crew is all together, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens because moving on from this, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more episodes. So you're gonna get 2 more reviews out of me. And I mean, we got Bad Territory, The Harbinger, Identity Crisis. I won't read all of them out of spoilers, but yeah, the last couple episodes, I can't wait to see what's gonna happen. I imagine that we're gonna get some unexpected deaths here, which is gonna be really really quite sad. But just having our whole group, our whole band back together is wonderful. And I for a second thought that Omega was going to get captured in this episode. I really, really did. It's funny too how Wolf doesn't give a shit about this rogue clone, assassin clone, just left him behind. That's funny. But I'm happy where we're at. I'm happy with our characters currently, and I'm looking forward to what's next. So thank you for tuning into this review. I'll be back in, well, we'll see. Could be 4 weeks, could be 3 weeks. Who knows? But I will be there. So until next time, everyone, we'll see you in the search bar.